Giannis and his agent have reportedly started conversations with the Milwaukee Bucks about whether his future remains there with a potential trade before the February 5th, 2026 deadline. Everybody and their mother should be interested in Giannis. He's one of the top 5 players on the planet.
Reports just surfaced that Giannis Antetokounmpo and his agent started conversations with the Milwaukee Bucks about his future. The February 2026 trade deadline is approaching, and suddenly every contender in the NBA is circling like sharks. The Lakers are being mentioned as a possible destination. Milwaukee's lost 8 of 9 games. Giannis just went down with a calf injury. The entire league is about to get turned upside down. Should the Bucks trade Giannis before he forces his way out, or ride it out and hope they can turn things around? Drop your take in the comments.
So the first report on all of this came out on December 3rd, and Shams said Giannis Antetokounmpo and his agent have started conversations with the Milwaukee Bucks about the 2-time NBA MVP's future and discussing whether his best fit is staying or elsewhere, sources tell ESPN. A resolution is expected in the coming weeks.
Stephen A. Smith went on an absolute rant about this situation, and honestly, he might be right about everything. His main argument is simple but brutal. If you're the Milwaukee Bucks, you have to trade Giannis Antetokounmpo. Not because he's declining, not because he's a problem. You have to trade him because you cannot win with the current roster construction, and waiting until he forces his way out means you get pennies on the dollar for one of the 5 best players on the planet.
What the hell is the ruckus about? If you are the Milwaukee Bucks, you must trade him because you have no other assets to provide. He's going to turn 31 years of age this Saturday. Why keep him around? At the height of who he is. I know this, you don't want remnants or indications or a replica of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar getting him out of town. But when you consider what the Milwaukee Bucks have looked, even with him, before he went down last night, and now he's expected to be out 2 to 4 weeks with a calf strain or whatever it is, the bottom line is, if you're the Milwaukee Bucks, why keep Giannis? You ain't gonna win with him. If the New York Knicks could get 5 picks for Mikal Bridges, if the Orlando Magic could get multiple picks for Desmond Bane, what the hell do you think you could get for Giannis Antetokounmpo?
Let's break down why this situation is so complicated and why the Lakers keep getting mentioned despite having almost no realistic path to acquiring him.
A lot of the speculation also came because Giannis scrubbed his social media of most of his Milwaukee Bucks content. And a lot of people are saying, when a player does that, it means that they're unhappy with the organization. They want to get out. And so fans obviously lost their mind when he did that. And the Bucks are currently 10-13 on the season. They're not looking like they have a roster that's able to compete. And then also when you're looking at the Eastern Conference, they are currently 10th in the Eastern Conference. The Eastern Conference, when it comes to competition wise, is nothing like the Western Conference. So if you are not in those top 3 to 4 teams in the Eastern Conference, you're just honestly a mediocre team.
Giannis is averaging 28.9 points and 10.1 rebounds this season. He's playing at an elite level. He's still in his prime at 31 years old. This isn't Anthony Davis missing half the season with mysterious injuries. This isn't Ja Morant dealing with off-court issues that make you question his availability. This is Giannis Antetokounmpo, one of the most reliable superstars in basketball, dropping 30 and 11 while his team falls apart around him. The Bucks recently lost 7 straight games. They've lost 8 of 9. The roster around Giannis is absolutely terrible. Stephen A. said it perfectly. Half the dudes in the starting lineup with him, nobody even knew they existed before this season. That's not an exaggeration. Milwaukee's supporting cast is so weak that Giannis could average 40 points per game and they'd still be fighting for a play-in spot. Milwaukee's front office has made some questionable decisions over the past few years. They traded for Damian Lillard, which seemed like a win-now move, but that trade cost them Jrue Holiday, one of the best two-way guards in basketball. Holiday went to Boston and immediately won a championship. Meanwhile, Lillard's defensive limitations have been exposed playing next to an aging roster that can't cover for his weaknesses. The fit never worked the way Milwaukee hoped it would.
Let's hear from Giannis. No field goals yet. Giannis dancing in the mid-range, finding a cutting AJ Green.
And that's the key. Giannis is down, Lisa. Doesn't look good. Does not look good. He went down and immediately summoned for the trainer.
Now Giannis is injured. The reports say he's expected to miss 2 to 4 weeks with a calf strain. Doc Rivers mentioned that calf strains have a nasty habit of turning into something worse. Remember how many times we've seen these minor injuries extend into months? The timing couldn't be worse for Milwaukee. They're spiraling, their best player is hurt, and the trade deadline is approaching in February 2026. Here's where the situation gets really interesting. Giannis has rattled the saber before. A few years ago, he refused to sign a contract extension that was on the table. The Bucks panicked and traded for Drew Holiday. Giannis signed the extension. Then he showed some frustration, and they traded for Damian Lillard. He signed another extension. The pattern is clear. When Giannis expresses any doubt about his future in Milwaukee, the front office scrambles to make a move that appeases him. But Milwaukee is basically out of moves now. They don't control their next 3 draft picks. They've traded away most of their valuable assets already. John Horst pulled some magic before, but there's no rabbit left in the hat this time. What move could they possibly make that convinces Giannis this roster can contend for a championship?
Stephen A's argument is that Milwaukee should be proactive about trading Giannis rather than reactive. Don't wait for him to demand a trade. Don't let the situation deteriorate into another Kareem Abdul-Jabbar disaster, where a legend forces his way out and the franchise is left with nothing. Trade him now while his value is at its absolute peak, and get a haul of assets that can rebuild the franchise for the next decade. Think about recent trades and what teams gave up for stars who weren't even as good as Giannis. The Knicks got 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges! The Orlando Magic got multiple picks for Desmond Bane. What do you think a team would offer for Giannis Antetokounmpo? A 2-time MVP, a champion, a guy who's still averaging 30 and 11 in his prime. If Milwaukee plays this correctly, they could get an absolute treasure trove of draft picks and young players. They could set themselves up for a complete rebuild while respecting Giannis's legacy by sending him somewhere he can actually compete for championships. That's the smart play. That's the professional move. But will they actually do it?
And Bleacher Report came out with this article that I thought was pretty interesting on some top destinations where Giannis could end up. And so I want to go over some of these cities with you guys. The first one is the Lakers. Lakers pair Giannis with Luka Doncic. And there were so many people making jokes on social media saying like, if only the Milwaukee Bucks could hire Nico Harrison so that we could get Giannis to the Lakers. And even just thinking about that, thinking about Giannis, Luka, and LeBron.
Now let's talk about the Lakers specifically, because that's what everyone wants to hear about. Why do the Lakers keep getting mentioned in these rumors? Basically, the only way the Lakers get Giannis is if Giannis specifically demands to be traded to the Lakers. Not the Knicks, not Miami, not Golden State, the Lakers. If Giannis tells Milwaukee, "I want to be a Laker," then Milwaukee would likely honor that request given everything he's done for the franchise. They'd work out a deal that gets it done. But in any other scenario where multiple teams are bidding for Giannis, the Lakers lose. They lose badly. They don't have the assets to compete in a bidding war. They don't have enough draft picks. They don't have enough young talent. They don't have third-party picks from other teams that Milwaukee would want. The Lakers package would be Austin Reeves, some expiring contracts, and whatever future picks they haven't already traded away. That's not winning any auction for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Here's the other problem. Milwaukee doesn't control their next 3 draft picks. That changes what they would want in a Giannis trade. If Milwaukee still had all their picks, they could blow it up completely. Trade Giannis for a bunch of first-rounders and tank for 3 years to rebuild through the draft. But they can't do that because they don't own their picks. So Milwaukee either wants players who can help them compete now, or they want third-party draft picks from other teams. Third-party picks are picks that a contending team has acquired from a bad team. For example, if the Thunder trade for Giannis, they could include draft picks they acquired from the Clippers or some other team. Those picks have value, because even if the Thunder become great with Giannis, those third-party picks from bad teams will still be valuable lottery picks. The Lakers don't have assets like that. They're not sitting on a stash of picks from rebuilding teams. The Lakers do have a bunch of expiring contracts that could make the salary matching work. That's not nothing.
But in a bidding war against teams like the Knicks, Heat, Warriors, or Thunder, teams that actually have valuable picks and young players to offer, the Lakers get blown out of the water. It's not even close. Windhorst said something crucial. If Giannis asks out, does he give Milwaukee one team or multiple teams? Back in August, rumors said Giannis had the Knicks as his preferred destination. If he asks for a trade, do the Knicks remain number one? Or does he give Milwaukee a list of 5 or 6 acceptable destinations? The more teams he's willing to go to, the worse it gets for the Lakers, because then it becomes a true bidding war that LA cannot win. There's also the contract situation. Giannis has 1 year plus a player option left after this season. Any team trading for him would need assurance that he's going to re-sign long-term. You're not giving up multiple first-round picks and your best players for 1 year of Giannis and then watching him leave in free agency. That happened with Paul George when he got traded to Oklahoma City. Teams learned from that mistake. Giannis isn't eligible to sign an extension right now due to NBA rules, but teams would need to have conversations with him before completing a trade to make sure he's committed long-term. That gives Giannis even more control over where he ends up. If he tells a team, "I'm not re-signing there," that team immediately drops out of the bidding. Giannis essentially gets to choose his destination even if Milwaukee has final say on trade details. So the Lakers' path to Giannis requires several things to happen. First, Giannis has to actually demand a trade. That's not guaranteed. He's expressed frustration before and stayed in Milwaukee. Second, Giannis has to specifically want the Lakers over every other contender in the league. Third, Milwaukee has to honor that request even though other teams would offer better packages. And fourth, Giannis has to be willing to commit long-term to the Lakers. If all 4 of those things happen, then yeah, there's a deal to be made. The Lakers' expiring contracts plus whatever picks they have left could technically work from a salary perspective. But that's a lot of dominoes that have to fall perfectly. Windhorst called it a bit of a journey, but not impossible. That's the most honest assessment you'll get. The reality is that several other teams make way more sense for Giannis. The Knicks have assets. The Heat have cap flexibility and a proven championship culture. The Warriors could offer young players and picks. The Thunder are sitting on a treasure trove of draft capital. Any of those teams can put together packages that blow away what the Lakers can offer. The other reality is that Giannis might not ask for a trade at all. He could stay in Milwaukee for another 6 months, see if the team improves, and then make a decision next summer when his contract situation gives him maximum leverage. Players often prefer waiting until free agency rather than forcing trades, because then they get to choose their destination without their old team extracting assets from their new team. But Stephen A's argument is that Milwaukee shouldn't wait for that. They should be aggressive about trading Giannis now, before the situation deteriorates further. They should call teams and see what packages are available. They should have honest conversations with Giannis about whether this is working. And if it's not working, which it clearly isn't right now, then they should make a deal that maximizes their return, rather than letting Giannis's value decrease as the roster continues falling apart. The February 2026 trade deadline is the real target date. That's when this could all come to a head. Milwaukee will know by then if they can salvage this season. Giannis will know if he wants to stay long-term. Other teams will have had months to prepare trade packages. The market for Giannis will be established. And decisions will have to be made. For Lakers fans, the hope is that Giannis wakes up one day and decides Los Angeles is where he wants to be. If that happens, the Lakers could legitimately acquire him. But that requires Giannis to explicitly want LA over everywhere else. Otherwise, they're outbid immediately. The sarcastic reality here is that Lakers fans are doing what they always do, assuming every superstar secretly wants to play in Los Angeles. Sometimes that's true. LeBron chose LA, but a lot of stars don't care about the Lakers. They care about winning, about money, about fit, about culture. Giannis has spent his entire career in Milwaukee. He's not a guy who's been angling for the spotlight or pushing to get to a major market. Maybe he wants to stay in a smaller market where he's the clear face of the franchise. The Giannis situation is about to dominate NBA headlines through the trade deadline. Milwaukee is spiraling. Giannis is injured and reportedly having conversations about his future.
The Lakers are being mentioned, but their path to acquiring him is extremely narrow. Every contender in the league should be calling Milwaukee right now. This changes everything if it actually happens. Who do you think lands Giannis if he gets traded? Comment below. Like and subscribe for all the latest NBA trade rumors and breaking news.